Hello to all the amazing and beautiful humans living on our planet Earth. I'm really excited to be talking with you today. Starting today, Feb 26th, 2025, all content from now and going forward is for broader audience across multiple countries. So the first disclaimer I have is any content starting today on my channel is going to be the copyright of my channel. If you would like to reuse any of my content, you will need my prior approval. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that those who are reusing my materials have some credibility on social media. So I will be checking your past videos and your past content to make that judgment. So without my consent, if you share anything from my YouTube channel, you will be given a copyright strike. But you are more than welcome to share the link of this video on any social media platform. This was my first disclaimer. The second disclaimer I have is that everything I'm talking about are my opinions, my observations, and my research. So these should only be considered as informational or used as entertainment purposes only. Now let's begin our new topic for the day, which is a very offensive term and it is generally called as begging. There is a history of evolution of begging from times since humans existed on our planet. I have some limited knowledge of various religious texts. I have read many religious texts like Bhagavad Gita, Bible, Quran, Torah, and I have also read a little bit about Buddhism and Jainism. And I have studied extensively human psychology and human behavioral sciences. So based upon some of this, I have to give you some understanding of where this concept of begging began. Let me start using the word bhiksha, which is a Sanskrit word. And based upon some of the historical manuscripts and documentation that we have, this is something that has existed since humans have existed. We don't have much research around this concept until recently. Globally, we understand. Let's talk about bhiksha and how this was relevant in the past, many centuries ago. Globally, we understand the term called monks. Monks are humans who have renounced all earthly pleasures, all pleasures that are related to accumulating wealth. I'm using this term monks because it is a well-known term in English. But there are many terms like rishis, sages that were used in India. These were individuals who had given up all their earthly and wealth-related pleasures and were on the path of seeking higher knowledge towards spirituality and enlightenment. So these individuals, the monks, the rishis, the sages, they spent most of their time doing severe penances or practices of long hours of meditation and other religious practices that were directed towards their spiritual growth. So they didn't have any source of stable income or wealth, and most of them were moving from one place to another in their quest for this path of life and to spread their teachings. So as part of this lifestyle, they used to seek bhiksha. Bhiksha is a Sanskrit word for alms, begging, asking. These individuals would ask bhiksha for food or clothing or for some of their basic necessities that they needed to survive in a human society. And centuries ago, when someone came at your door and asked for bhiksha, it was considered as a fortunate incident. An incident that people said that God gave them an opportunity to serve humanity. Because of such monks and sages and rishis who would come at your door and ask for bhiksha, they were considered as like a good karma. They were respected in the society, and these individuals were considered as blessed souls walking on our earth. So people really looked forward for such incidents in their lives and would actually be welcoming such bhiksha requests. Even today, in certain sections of Hinduism which follow that have certain rituals like thread ceremony, as part of initiation process of these thread ceremony, a male has to go through a process of asking for bhiksha. Many years ago, I had attended a ceremony of such a thread ceremony of a friend's brother, and I was shocked in which that teenage boy had to hold a bowl in his hand and go around in the room and ask for bhiksha, simulating the process of asking for bhiksha process that was done centuries ago. This was explained to me that it is done as an act of letting go of your ego or ahamkara before the initiation of the ceremony, the thread ceremony. Imagine this is a very vulnerable state of mind. And it is also an experience that really grounds you, brings you down. It is a way for us to really shed our ego and our aggressions and our arrogance. Now, reverting our conversation back to our conversation about monks, rishis, and sages. These individuals would go through severe practices and penances that required them to eat sparingly. Sometimes they would eat once a day, or more severe penances like they would eat only 2 or 3 times a week. And you would have heard that concept of fasting, intermittent fasting, which is very popular in the West. And it is used as a very good way to retain good health. So they went through these practices as part of their spiritual growth and as part of their spiritual journey. I'm going to take 2 names who really inspire me in my life. These souls who walked on our planet is our fortune. They made our human race to become better. You must have guessed these names. One is Gautam Buddha and the other is Jesus Christ. They renounced a lot of all of their worldly pleasures, and their sole purpose in life was to guide humanity towards the path of righteousness, towards the path of enlightenment. For Gautam Buddha, I can use the term he guided us toward the path of moksha, nirvana. Now I'm going to switch to the last few centuries of humanity, because that is where we have enough documentation about human societies. We have enough understanding of our history, culture, religions, and societies. The concept of begging changes in the last couple of centuries. This is where we understand that humans who don't have the basic necessities of surviving and don't have ways to earn them start begging for various resources. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medical facilities, etc. They started going to individuals who were wealthier to give them those things. And we started to use the term begging, beggars. It is a very offensive term, but I have to use the term in order to explain what it is. Now, we as a society, we have classism. There is the rich and the poor and the middle class. And I am going to use some of these terms little loosely. In all religions, there are teachings about charity, about sharing, about empathy, compassion to our fellow humans and animals. This concept of kindness and compassion is about those who have more wealth or resources, more than what they need, share it with the ones who don't have them. Provide them with food, clothing, and other basic things that every human being needs for survival. In fact, we have periods of time in various religions where these concepts of charity and giving are amplified. In many religions, it is taught to share a certain percentage of your wealth with those who don't have. These references come in various holy books of most religions, directly or indirectly. This concept of sharing your wealth, this concept of charity. Now, there are many parts of the world which are struck by poverty. Let's talk about this for a minute. Extensive poverty exists mostly in many countries in Africa, many countries in Southeast Asia, many Caribbean countries, and some countries of South America. There are poverty guidelines defined by WHO, World Health Organization. In North America, we generally don't see many beggars, but we have a similar concept called homeless people. These are individuals which are very similar to the concept of beggars. They are living off of monthly economic support system that they get from the government, don't have a house, live on the streets. But because they live in advanced countries like America, wealthier societies like America, we have provided them with a lot of places where they can get help from. There are many shelters that provide free food, stay, clothing, and other facilities like medical facilities. A lot of this comes from citizens' charity and some support from the government. So, irrespective of how poor somebody is in the US, there are places where they can get free food and clothing. During severe weather situations like severe winters and summers, they will be able to spend the night there and generally they will be provided with a decent bed, blankets, whatever else is needed. I'm telling you all of this with my experience of being an American. You know, I'm somebody who's very empathetic, compassionate. It is just in my nature. I'm highly educated. I have traveled to more than 50 plus countries around the world. I have met and worked with some of the most intelligent and highly educated people. I socialize with the cream of the society in multiple continents, and my family is very deeply connected politically in many parts of the world. I feel empathy excessively sometimes, but in spite of all this and all my learnings and experience, I still face situations where I get fooled or duped due to my kind heart. I think it is just a couple of months ago, I'll share a story with you. I was in Chicago. It was somewhere around November, December. It was winter. I was walking on the streets of downtown Chicago where I see this man who is walking slowly and is not wearing any shoes. He was wearing a pair of socks and he made a cutout out of cardboard boxes in the shape of slip-on slippers, and he was walking slowly. I had never seen anybody without a pair of shoes in America. I felt terrible for that person. It was cold, and so I wanted to ask what was going on with him. I approached this man and I asked him, "Hello, sir. Is there a reason why you're not wearing shoes?" He said, "No, I don't have one." This man was around 30, 35, or maybe around 40 years old. Maybe because of his conditions, he looked a little bit older than his actual biological age. I tell him, okay, because it is downtown, there are many shops around that area. So I told him, can you wait here for 5 minutes? I saw a shoe store right around the corner and I said, "I'm going to buy you your shoes. Can you tell me your shoe size?" He very nicely tells me his shoe size and he says, "Yes, I will wait." I go into that shoe shop and I buy him a shoe, which was not very expensive, less than $100. And it was a shoe that will sustain during the winter. I buy him a pair of shoes and I buy him a couple of socks, thick socks. And I come back to him and I give it to him. I request him to wear those shoes in front of me, which he gently does. He thanks me profusely. He says, "Lady, I really thank you and appreciate it." I give him some money to buy him dinner. He very graciously then walks away wearing those new shoes. I was in Chicago for a business trip. In the next couple of days, I generally take a walk every evening. In the same area where I had encountered this man, I was walking in one evening, maybe 2 or 3 days later. I see him and I was shocked. Guess what? He's again wearing a pair of socks with his cardboard slippers, no shoes. I was not sure what happened. Did he get robbed? Did he lose his shoes? I walked up to him and I gently asked, I said, "Sir, do you remember me?" He looked up at me and he said, "Of course." And he smiled. His grin was broad. He smiled and he said, "Of course I remember you. You're the lady who gifted me that pair of shoes." I said, "Yes, why are you not wearing them? What happened?" He looks at me a little confused, ashamed, And he starts muttering, uh, uh, I had to sell them, he said. I said, what? Why did you have to sell them? And he literally puts his head down and he says, because I had to buy dope. Do you know what dope is? Dope means drugs. This breaks my heart into a million pieces. I just did not say any single thing to him, not a single word. I ran away from that place as fast as I could. So you see, in spite of all my education, all my life experiences, all my traveling, not for a single second I thought that this person who was walking on the streets on a cold Chicago evening is in a situation because of the choices that he's continuously making in his life. And he continues to be in a miserable, poor, or financially challenged state, not because of anything, but of the choices he's making. So you see, sometimes empathy and compassion is misused and is misplaced. This is something that we need to understand as human beings. And this is what happened to me few times in my lifetime so far. So let's get back to the term begging. The term begging started being misused by people who are actually manipulating humanity. Majority of humans are empathetic towards each other. It is just ingrained in our DNA. We want to be kind to each other. But some people, some devious, cunning people are manipulating this to us, directly or indirectly. And I've been seeing this through many experiences recently. I've started understanding that this is being done more and more on social media. This is a very cunning method. These people who are actually frauds, I would like to call them close to criminals who are looting nice, generous people out of money. You know, in this day and age where we are progressing so well in the areas of technology, medicine, and sciences, there are also people who are advancing in their cunningness, deceptiveness, and fraudness. So with my last couple of years of experiences of studying social media and doing some research, I've identified that there is another aspect of begging. And this is called manipulation of empathy, manipulation of humanity, manipulation of emotions using social media platforms. And these are smart people. They are actually trying to use emotional connect with human beings virtually and frauding people. They're cheating, they're manipulating, and they are using psychological methods to make money, which is again in the form of begging, directly or indirectly. This is the worst kind of begging. So I wanted to bring this awareness to our good humans, people who have goodness in their hearts and who wish good for others. I feel like all these experiences have never made me less kind or less empathetic, but it has made me smarter. Now that my choices of people who I want to help, I am very careful in choosing them. So there are many ways that these people manipulate. And you know, when I dig a little bit more further, there are some manipulations that are that are actually like what are they called? Like they are a chain of people who are doing this. You might have heard a lot of things like the Nigerian scams. These are scamsters. You know, there are a group of people. They actually run companies running scams. And most of these scams are being run from countries based out of Africa, Asia, Caribbean countries, and some South America. These are the most populated places for poverty. So I wanted to bring this awareness to you and help you understand and give you the warnings. So don't go and help anybody directly or indirectly via social media without getting to the bottom of it and understanding the kind of person you're trying to help. Are they worthy of your help? Being empathetic is embedded in my nature. My grandmother, I call her Amama, she is the one who gave me the nickname Wise. And she used to always look at me and tell me, you are a soul that is probably a couple of thousand years old, and you have taken rebirth this time. And one of your life lessons that you need to learn and understand is how to control your empathy. And maybe she's right. That is what I have to do in this lifetime. When I watch other people suffer, I have this tingling in my heart. I want to help them. I want to make their lives better. So my Amma, my grandmother, is 100% accurate in her observations of me. And I share all my experiences of such incidents with my Amma. She would laugh and she will say, I told you so. And she's right. It is part of my learning experience to understand how not to let others misuse my empathy, kindness, and compassion. You know, this is a running joke in my family. In every family get-together, all my siblings, they gather all this information about me from my Amma and they roast me about it. And they have a good laugh at my expense while I'm sitting there and just shaking my head and silently enduring their roasting. After every roasting, each one of my siblings will come and give me a hug or ruffle my hair and say, don't ever stop being kind. We love you exactly the way you are. And all my sisters and cousin sisters, they all say, hey, with all the money Wise has wasted, she could have bought us a Birkin handbag, an Hermes Birkin handbag. Few who are aware of this item will understand this joke. Share this video with your loved ones, with people you care in your life. If you want to reuse my content, please contact me via the email provided. We plan to build a community through this channel and help each other benefit with our experiences and grow as a community. For new upcoming YouTubers, the more you interact with us and provide feedback, the more we will be able to help you with our content, tips and tricks, videos, and other methods to grow your own channel. We want to get to know you individually. So leave a comment with your feedback and tell us what you think about this video. We want to hear your opinions loud and clear. Be respectful and kind and honest. Thank you very much. I want to end this video with a Sanskrit mantra. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. The translation of it means, may all beings everywhere on this planet be happy and free. Goodbye.